Well, hi there, class. This is Mr. V. We're just going to give you guys a little demo on what I call the repeater. What it is I don't really know the formal name for it. I don't think there is one. But what it is a scaffolding technique to help you find out the accurate placement of repeating forms. For example, slats on a sidewalk, sidewalk lines, or fence posts, or windows in a building, and so on. And believe it or not, this is what people do. They go through this entire process, but the better you get at it, the quicker it is. Eyeballing things in your forms, just generally guessing on where placement is really not a good way to have an accurate composition. If you make a mistake, it'll look like something's not quite right, even if it's a small element in your piece, like a window or a fence post or a tree or a lamp post or whatnot. It'll have this glaring sense of ugh in your piece. So once you get this technique down, we'll move on. What we're going to do is I'm going to make a giant rectangle similar to like a semi-truck trailer receding off into the distance. And on the outside of this trailer are going to be kind of segmented lines that get smaller and smaller as they get further and further away. So we have our trailer-like rectangle receding off into the distance here. What we're going to do is now start to create the scaffold that helps us make the repeater. So the first step is, basically just pick wherever you want. It's your choice. And I decided to put my first square right here. So what's our next step? Well, if you guessed finding the middle, you're correct. So what we do is I'm going to zoom in here really quick, we find the center by connecting our corners like so. There we go. We've got our X. We found the middle. Now let's do our vertical line. So we go to our middle here and you get your ruler. Make sure it's straight up and down or it's not going to work. If you got it off at an angle, it's going to throw the whole thing off. What you can do is you can use what's called a T-square. It's one of those ice pick looking ruler things in the back, and that is simply a tool. You line up the ice pick blade part right smack against the edge of the table. You tape your paper down so it doesn't move, and then that helps stabilize the ruler so that your lines are straight up and down. Okay, now there's one more that we need to do, and that is the plus sign, the east and the west. Now remember, we're working on the z-axis here. Everything that we're doing is receding off. So that means the center line is going to connect to the vanishing point. So now we've got our middle, and you'll notice it's bigger on this side than on this side. That's called foreshortening. As things go off in the distance, they get closer and crushed together. What 2 points do we next use in order to correctly find the next half of our area where that line is going to be? Well, if you guessed this one and this one, you were right. It's always going to be those same 2 points. All right, and I draw a line right through them just like that. What's the next step? Well, we then use this little area right up here to find where our next vertical north and south line is going to be. And remember, it's on the y-axis, so we don't need to line it up to a vanishing point because it's going up and down. Which 2 points do we use in order to find out where the next intersection is going to be? You guessed it. These two, just like the last time. And you're going to start to get into a rhythm. As you understand how this goes, it's just going to be second nature. And it's far easier to do on paper than it is in a computer. Let's do it again. Which 2 points do we use? These two. So I'm just going to jump ahead and finish this off really quick and then show you how once you get one side done, then the other side draws itself. You don't have to do this. If I were to make the whole thing segmented, I wouldn't have to do this for the underside of the cube. Okay, I've completed it as you can see, and what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to draw where the segments are at. So, here we go. You could either choose to use all the vertical lines from each intersection, or if you were to do, say, windows or sidewalk tiles, it would have to be every other one in order to look even. Okay, I'm going to turn off my scaffolding, and that's what we have. Pretty slick, huh? And it gets consecutively smaller, tighter together. For example, these two lines up in the front are nowhere near as thick as the lines further off in the distance. So what do we do for this bottom area right here? Well, I bet you guessed it. If it drew itself, then all we need to do is just draw x-axis lines here across to give it that segmented look. Alright, now let's take it one step further. In your assignment, you're not going to make one giant rectangle with these lines and leave it like that. What you're going to do is you're actually going to end up making cubes that overlap each other in a straight line like this. And I'm going to show you how to do it. You're probably going, oh my gosh, how do I do that? It's going to be so hard. Well, it's really not. You've gotten all the hard work out of the way. You just need to adjust how you think and how you see this. So if this was one cube floating in space, there needs to be a gap between the two. Okay? So that means the other cube is not going to be right up against it flush, touching it. There's going to be a gap. So that means this area is going to be an empty space. Now watch what I'm going to do. And when you see this, you're going to have an aha moment. And I'm just going to bloop, just like that. All right? And then I'm going to take the bottom of this corner and just go bam, just like that. And what happened? Oh my gosh! We've got one cube floating in space and then one behind it. Okay, so let's go down the line again. All right? All you need to do is just define the top and then the outside edges. So I'm going to go over here. I'm going to treat this one like it's a whole cube. And I'm going to ignore this space, pretend it's empty space. I'm going to go over here to this back part and connect the top. Boom. And then go over here, connect the side. Boom. Let's take a look. We've got cubes floating in space. And then you just go in here and you clean it up. I'm just going to get rid of this line right here. We don't need it. We don't need these lines. I'm just going to clean it up and then let's fast forward. All right, there we go. I erased the lines, and then I just gave each plane kind of just a different value. And as you can see, you've got three-dimensional cubes in space. Now, you would do this also for irregular shapes, too. It's really neat. And that's how you do it. So for your assignment, you'll be creating these cubes with a light source. But I do recommend that you go back and watch the video again. Watch that aha moment when all of a sudden you realized, oh, that's how I do cubes, you know, that instead of just segmented edges. So I hope you found this helpful. This is the repeater. It also applies to two-point perspective, which I'll show you briefly in another screencast. So good luck, and I'll see you in class.